Hello friends, I am Mariam Garud working as Assistant Professor in Institute Technology College of India. This is module number 4 in which we are going to study planner skills, landscape architecture and suitability of trees. So in this slide we are going to see what is the skill required for the planners. Urban planning is a highly collaborative field and urban planners spend much of their time working with others. An urban planners day may start with staff meeting to discuss the management of a planning project. Other meeting might include a team meeting with engineers, architects, health professionals and landscape architects. Further, to review the specific of plans, yet other meetings might take place with developers as a part of pre-application process. The urban planner's role is to provide the big picture and to relate the project to various goals and guidelines such as ordinances or design review in order to achieve a final project that meets the need of the community. This might include appropriate design, environmental consideration, support for the local economy, or equitable access for all members of the community. Further, urban planners are responsible for knowing state and federal legislation and court rulings that relate to project plans or guidelines. For example, urban planners must know how the First Amendment of Constitution relates to sign controls or how street design relate to the Disability Act. Once again, urban planners are responsible for providing this technical knowledge to the project. In complex project, a developer will likely consult his or her own legal experts. In some part of urban planners, they involves working on his or her own. Urban planners may conduct research and gather data from a variety of sources, including economic development or market research studies, from census reports or from environmental studies also. The urban planner tests assumptions about the meaning and importance of the data by using a variety of technologies. One common tool used in urban planning is Geographic Information System, that is GIS, which links data and electronic mapping. Other tools may include scenario building visualization tools, electronic polling systems, financial analysis spreadsheets, and demographic databases. Even urban planners prepare reports on their findings and analysis. Often they will provide alternative for policymakers to consider. Writing and synthesis skills are also necessary for this part of job. Then reports and presentation. Urban planners also do presentation. These presentations are made by mid-level staff, departmental head or the planning director. Urban planners frequently provide presentation to the city council, business groups, neighborhood groups and professionals. These presentations place a specific project or issue in the context of the community's plan and guidelines for development and change. Today, urban planners are proficient in using PowerPoint and other visual technologies to present information and ideas in planning. Presentation skills are very important for private sector planners who give to present projects at various stages to client, officials or the public. Then regarding the project management. The project management is another important skill for urban planners, especially for those working in the private sector. Urban planners manage a variety of projects from neighborhood planning programs to the design and development of new bike path to much larger scale projects. They also oversee grant programs such as historic preservation or community development block grants. Then urban planners also engage in more lengthy process of public participation. In these projects, planners call upon their skills as facilitators working with a broad spectrum of community members. These processes have become very creative and planners often use exercises, visualization technique and group work in the development of plan. An urban planner's day often extends into the evening as he or she provides staff support to the monthly planning commission meeting. Public sector planners provide reports to the Commission and provide support to the public meeting. Private sector planners present projects to the Commission. It is not uncommon for an urban planning attorney to present proposals to the Planning Commission or on occasion to provide legal counsel to the Planning Commission. Other evening meetings may include meetings with neighborhood groups or boards such as Historic Preservation Review Board. After knowing the skills required for planners, we are going to see how to select a particular tree in urban planning. Selecting the tree for a particular place can avoid costly disappointments later. Trees adapted to the planting site are more likely to remain standing in hurricanes, though site evaluation can ensure that the chosen tree will survive conditions inherent to the location. Proper site evaluation, planning and execution can result in a successful urban forest that resists hurricanes. For example, oak trees were chosen for their wind-resistant structure and ability to provide shade, but they were only able to thrive given the adequate open soil space and distance from the above-ground structures such as street light and wires. A simple way to begin a site evaluation is to drive around a town to find out which species grow well in landscape with similar site attributes. It is important to keep in mind that no two sites are exactly alike. Various conditions, both above and below the ground, affect the success of a particular tree species. Visiting a local public garden or nursery is also a great way to learn about all different species that are available and being grown locally. Planting trees far from overhead wires, that is from top, reduces costly maintenance and service outages in storms. Trees located under wires are costly to maintain and can bring down the wires in strong winds. Some communities plant large trees under wires and prone to keep them clear of wires. Then urban planners also engage in more lengthy process of public participation. In these projects, planners call upon their skills as facilitators working with a broad spectrum of community members. These processes have become very creative and planners often use exercises, visualization technique and group work in the development of plan. Then checking soil drainage is also important to determine species selection for a site. Note that how the roots of trees grew only in the top layer of soil. Also, large maturing trees are not suitable for shallow soils because they lack deep roots and blow over easily in hurricanes. Then we will see the function of trees. Healthy trees provide us with many benefits. They give shade, produce oxygen, control erosion, protect our water resources, increase asphalt durability, support wildlife and stabilize stream banks. The function we would like a tree to provide may dictate its size, shape, that is form, lifespan, canopy density, color, growth rate, fruit characteristics and other attributes also. Whenever we are selecting the plant, that should be selected very carefully so that we can avoid problems later. Even we can save energy, effort, water, money, etc. and makes the landscape more enjoyable. Further, urban planners are responsible for knowing state and federal legislation and court rulings that relate to project plans or guidelines. For example, urban planners must know how the First Amendment of Constitution relates to sign controls or how street design relate to the Disability Act. Once again, urban planners are responsible for providing this technical knowledge to the project. In complex project, a developer will likely consult his or her own legal experts. So, trees in urban and community forest will be the subject to combined effect of climate change and urban heat island, trying it all together. Then it is important to plant and maintain a diversity of tree species throughout the community. This helps spread the risk of damage in storms. It may require more work and creativity to find a variety of trees that can withstand urban conditions, but it is well worth the effort. Species diversity allows the landscape to withstand devastation by insect or diseases outbreaks, and if executed appropriately can provide a more aesthetic appeal. However, species selection alone will not prevent danger in storms. Trees must be positioned and maintained appropriately in order to create hurricane-resistant urban forest. Whenever we are going to select the trees, the large trees having greater than 50 feet height are the obvious choice for providing shade to large open spaces and planting along street if there is proper space above and below the ground. Then medium or large trees will cast the most shadow onto a building, which can reduce air conditioning bills when the trees are placed properly. Keeping in mind, however, that larger trees are more likely to be damaged and cause damage than small trees. Therefore, the managers weigh the advantage and disadvantage of planting large size shade trees. Similarly, small trees with height less than 30 feet are often suggested for planting in downtown areas where soil space is limited, but they provide little shade. Small or medium-sized trees may be good choices for planting near a deck or patio or in areas exposed to potential hurricane force winds. Take in mind, however, that the benefit of small trees provided are small compared to large trees. So, trees form can have a big impact on tree maintenance requirement. There are many urban landscape situations that call for trees near pavement. Small spreading trees that are multi-trunked require regular pruning if they planted too close to a sidewalk, whereas a small upright tree or larger tree can be trained to grow over the walk or street. Trees with a pyramidal form usually require less pruning to develop strong wind-resistant branch structure than those with other forms. Trees with rounded, oval, or spreading canopies often need periodic pruning in the first 25 years after planting to ensure good structure and to provide clearance. It would appear that large long-lived trees might be the logical choice for planting in most landscape situations, since they would provide for a lasting effect. However, with reasonable placement and care, long-lived trees will probably outlast many of today's street homes and buildings. Many structures are renovated or expanded 30 to 50 years after construction. The renovation is often so extensive that it becomes difficult to provide the needed protection for large, long-lived trees' extensive root system in order to keep the trees alive. For this reason, concern about the tree longevity may be less important in highly urbanized landscape unless special provisions are undertaken to protect the tree. Understanding how the site will be managed after planting is a critical factor in tree selection. Maintenance issues such as irrigation, pruning, fertilization, and pest control can affect whether a tree is able to thrive. For example, if the planner knows that trees will not receive any pruning once they are in landscape, then a tree with a naturally good structure The ability to deliver irrigation determines which species and nursery stock sizes are best suited for the site. If trees can be irrigated regularly only until they are established, drought-tolerant trees should be chosen and nursery stock of any size can be planted. If trees receive irrigation during establishment and then regularly during the life of the tree, or if you are planting in the plant's native range and soil type, any tree regardless of drought tolerance can be planted. Some irrigation is needed in extended droughts to keep trees alive in the first 2 to 3 years after planting, even after establishment. Trees should be pruned regularly to maintain good health and longevity. An effective pruning program helps trees resist hurricane force winds. An effective urban forestry program makes this necessary pruning an integral part of the budget. This program budget for structural pruning for the first 25 years after planting. Unfortunately, true pruning budgets are often too low to allow pruning every 3 to 5 years following planting. If this is the case, consider planting those species that require only a moderate amount of pruning to develop and maintain good structure. Then checking soil drainage is also important to determine species selection for a site. Note that how the roots of trees grew only in the top layer of soil. Also, large maturing trees are not suitable for shallow soils because they lack deep roots and blow over easily in hurricanes. Then trees with large fruit, royal poinciana, hard fruit, hickory, or very fleshy fruits, fig, seagrass, or queen palm can create a mess or hazard on sidewalks and pavement beneath the canopy because pedestrian can slip and fall on the fruit and can be unsightly. If cleanup budgets are low, consider planting trees without this type of messy fruit, such as fruitless rotundiloba in areas with high pedestrian traffic. Ethaphone sprays can be used on some species to halt fruit production, but proper timing is crucial. Then match ultimate tree size to the soil volume available for root growth. This strategy helps keep trees healthy and stable in storms. It also prevents damage to surrounding sidewalks, curbs, and pavement. Soil under pavement is typically poor, aerated, and compacted, and situation that is considered inhospitable for roots unless soil is coarse sand and well drained. Roots will be mostly confined to the soil space not covered by pavement or the space between the soil and the bottom of the pavement. Therefore, this will inhibit development of a strong root system, can result in the tree becoming unstable during hurricanes. Some wet site tolerant trees are adapted to produce roots under pavement, and they can remain upright in strong winds. Wind increases the amount of water lost from a tree to the atmosphere. Therefore, in areas exposed to higher winds, that is near the beach, consider choosing only drought-tolerant trees. Otherwise, special provision should be made to increase the availability of irrigation or to protect the site from direct wind. If the site has poorly drained soil, trees will need to be both wet and drought tolerant. Airborne salt affects trees by burning back twigs and foliage or through root after it is deposited on the ground and penetrates into the soil. Salt-tolerant trees are often deformed by direct exposure to salty air, but they survive and grow just fine. Foliage on salt sensitive trees burns and trees become deformed and grow poorly when exposed to salty air. Trees with one-sided canopies near the coast can be very susceptible to hurricane force winds that impact the canopy from the heavy side, but this is unavoidable. Thank you for your kind attention.